Let's get a seat real quick, all right? We've got to make the most of the time. This is what makes heaven even more precious. There won't be any watches in heaven. Yeah. So, all right. Let's do a time of question and answer, and just out of respect for Walid and his time. Let's limit it to questions and not comments and counterpoints. Can we do that? Okay. And we have some microphones, so this is the rule, so that everybody can participate, even those like myself who have diminished hearing. You have to use a microphone. Agreed? Okay. And so we'll go just for a little bit, and then Brother Walid's going to speak again. And then we want to bless him once again. So right at the very end, we're going to take up another love offering. Some of you weren't here this morning. And we want him to leave Temecula and say, man, that was great. Yeah? I didn't say Calvary Chapel. I said Temecula, all right? So let's open it up for a time of Q&A.
Hi, Walid. It's a pleasure to have you here and be hearing you. My question is, as a Christian, is it okay for us to fight tooth and nail to keep the mosque that's coming up in Temecula, keep it out of here? As a Christian, they claim, well, you're fighting a house of worship, and it's constitutional that other houses of worship should rise in the land.
All right, let's answer the question. Is it okay? Is it Christian to call for the closure of a mosque? Okay, let's put it this way. Before we talk about is it Christian, let's talk about as an American. As Americans, do we, let's say, a bunch of Mormons wants to have a place, even though we don't agree with them, to have a place of worship? A place of whatever congregation. No. Buddhists want to have a temple. You're not going to stop that. And that's not the point. The question is, what are we asking to stop? Is it a place where Muslims want to go and bow down 5 times a day to Mecca? If that's the case, then I say no. That's not our business, trying to stop people from praying and worshiping, because that's not what we're about. But that's the wrong premise. You have the mosque in the ground zero. Okay? You got Bloomberg. Bloomberg says, we have freedom of religion. No one can stop anyone from freedom of religion. But that's the wrong premise. It's not the right premise, because question is, how is this person defining this place? Are they defining it? What are they defining it as? First of all, in Islamic Sharia, myth number 1, Islam is not only a religion. Whoever tells you Islam is only a religion is lying to you. Islam is also Sharia. Wait a minute. What's that word? Sharia. Sharia. Law. That's not religion. That's not somebody who wants to pray 5 times to Mecca. That's somebody who wants to establish a different constitution and legal system than yours. In Great Britain, the Muslims succeeded in establishing their own Sharia courts. Their own court system. Even remember Antichrist. He attempts to change set times and set laws. He wants to change all the laws of the world. Well, these guys are trying to change the laws of the world too. So we're talking about a constitution. You see Muslims in the mosque, and the imam is saying, "Ma hiya amanikum." What are your desires? And the crowd will say, "Al-mawtu fi sabilillah," to die for the cause of Allah. "Ma huwa dasturakum," what is your constitution? "Al-Qur'anu dasturuna," the Quran is our constitution. Excuse me? Keith Ellison, he's swearing on the Quran, he's setting a precedence. We've changed the Bible now. We can swear on the Quran. America is Sharia compliant. It's submitting to Sharia. When they say America is Sharia compliant, who's saying that? Christians? No, Muslims. America is Sharia compliant. They are compliant to our laws. They're ready, susceptible, open for us to begin to change the Constitution. All right. When you look at Faisal Abdul Rauf, the mastermind behind building the mosque in Ground Zero. You know, I was the first one in this country to begin to expose what Faisal Abdul Rauf was saying in the Arabic language. I said, let me bust your bubbles, my fellow Americans. You can Google this guy name till you're blue at the face. Everything comes squeaky clean. Do you Google him in the Arabic language? We don't know Arabic. I do. Faisal Abdul Rauf in the Arabic language. I issued a press release immediately. It was shocking. I was on Fox News just last couple of weeks ago. I was all over the media, the Bill Handel show, that show. I didn't even know these names. It was going crazy, day and night, telling Americans from coast to coast what in the world is going on. I said, well, there's a couple websites. Islamic, one of the most prominent websites in the Muslim world is HadyiLislam.com. HadyiLislam.com, there is an interview with Faisal Abdul Rauf. And in the interview, they say to him, you're a Muslim. Why are you telling the Americans that you believe in separation of mosque from state? Are you with me? Mosque from state. Hello? If Mormons don't want to separate church from state, then guess what? We have to say no. It's not about religion here. He says, you're right, 99, that's not my words, that's Faisal Abdul Rauf's words. He says 99% of Muslims do not separate mosque from state. That's what he said, not me. 99%. But we have to be stealth. We can't go around saying we don't want to separate we don't want to separate mosque from state. We can't go around saying that. And he's saying in the interview the honest truth to what he really intends. He says, I have consulted with many Muslim scholars, and we are in agreement that what counts is the advancement of Islamic Sharia law that are required to govern. What part of law and what part of govern do you not understand? Govern. I translated the word verbatim, and no Muslim website came up to object about what I said, by the way, because the translation is perfect. And then I said, well, okay, that's an isolated case. Let's go to Rights for All, an interview he did at the Cairo University in Egypt. And what does he tell them? In fact, the article in the Arabic language says, the most prominent imam in New York City says, I do not believe in religious dialogue. The Qurtuba initiative that he established to build a mosque, in its definition of what the purpose of this initiative is, to have dialogue in the English language only. We want dialogue. And Christians and Jews, dialogue. Oh. Dialogue. Dialogue. Peace. You want dialogue? Come on, come in, come in. Dialogue. He says, as Muslims, we don't believe in religious dialogue. Then if it's not about religious dialogue, what is it? Now you go to his interview he did in the Arabic language in Kuala Lumpur, or in Indonesia, in his own homeland, and there the truth is more coming out. He says, they asked him a question. They said, but Mr. Abdul Rauf, why buy Ground Zero? Why buy that area over there? In the beginning of the article, he says, well, which is just only a YMCA, it's a Muslim YMCA, It's an Islamic YMCA center for the youth. And then they ask him further, he must have forgot about the YMCA, because a liar speaks with forked tongue. The truth finally comes out. And they ask him, they says, well, why buy that area? He says, well, my mosque, Al-Farah Mosque, is down the street from there. And he says, it's not a mosque, right? In the first, it's not a mosque. And then he says, mosque in Al-Farah could not hold 3 services for Friday prayers. Excuse me, Muslims never have Friday prayers unless it's in a mosque. I want a bigger place to fill all the Muslims, to make the bigger, mosque. It's right there. He says it's a mosque. He says, Americans, it's not a mosque. And now he says to the Arabic language, it is a mosque. You need to understand how the Muslim apologists work. Because I used to be part of that apparatus. I'm Captain Spock. You need to understand how we think. We have what is called taqiyya. Taqiyya and kitman. At-taqiyya wal-kitman. Concealing your faith. Hiding your true intent to the enemy. And At-Tabari, one of the greatest expositors of the hadith, he says, while you conceal your true intent, you harbor inner animosity towards them while you smile to their faces. And that is called muruna. Muruna is to be stealth, flexible. The Quran is a book on patience. وَأَصْبِرُوا وَصَابِرُوا وَثَابِرُوا. Be patient on the enemy. And, وَأَمْهِلِ الْكَافِرِينَ أَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا. Wait upon the unbelievers. Be patient upon the unbelievers until the day comes. You don't understand these things. You don't. I can show you recordings of, the kind of events they used to have. You had Sheikh Qaradawi. Sheikh Qaradawi, one of the most prominent Muslim scholars in the Muslim Sunni world. He's in Great Britain, by the way. He was working for the European Union. And he gives a good example. He says about peace. The advisor of Salahuddin, Saladin, Saladin, who fought the Richard of the Lionheart. And he's asked the question, and Salahuddin was asked the question. He said, Richard the Lionheart wants to have peace. And Salahuddin began to ask his Muslim consultants. He had an Arab consultant. Salahuddin is not Arab, he's Kurd, by the way. And he asks his Arab consultant, well, what say ye? He says, well, the Quran says, if they concede to peace, then concede to it. And Salahuddin says, yes, that's true. The Quran says that. When you are the weaker party. He says, the Quran, he said, you are an Arab and I'm a Kurd. You should know the Quran better than I. The Quran also said, why should you concede to peace when you have the upper hand? That's in the Quran. Americans are not accustomed to this. You wait till you become more powerful, and then you'll see the true wrath of Islam. Why should you concede to peace when you have the upper hand? When you talk to, hey, Islam is this, Islam is that. Whoa. Let me play the Muslim here. Show me where is that in the Quran. The Quran is a peaceful book. The Quran says, for whoever saves a life, saves the whole earth. And for whoever kills a life, kills the whole earth. And you're like, oh, really? Yeah, it does say that. And they show you the verse. Yeah, it's right there. It says that exactly. Continue the next verse after that. But as for those who do mischief in the land, then cut their hands and feet from opposite sides and crucify them. Literally. Such a peaceful verse. You understand? Is Islam a peaceful religion? Yes, it depends on which verse you're looking at. The cyanide is never discussed. Do you expect the devil to tell you, I put cyanide in the punch? Punch. What'd you put in there? Well, I don't know, 3 drops of something called cyanide. After all, your system should be able to decipher the good from the ugly. Bon appetit. You see, you got to look for the cyanide. There is a cyanide there. And Americans are not accustomed to finding the cyanide. They follow this peaceful Islam. That Islam is... Let me tell you what a peaceful religion is. Let me tell you what a violent religion is. The definition of a peaceful religion. A peaceful religion is the kind of religion that if you curse it in front of its constituents and followers, they will pray for you. That, my friends, is Christianity. The violent religion insists, you must say our religion is a religion of peace, or we will kill you. That is Islam. Question: how come nobody walks around, Mormonism is a peaceful religion, Christianity, Judaism is a peaceful religion? How come nobody walks around saying that? Why only they walk around saying, Islam is a peaceful religion? Why does it have to be cloaked so much? Why does it have to be cellophane so much? Because it stinks till high heaven. You dress it up because there's a problem with it. Even the Pope made a statement, and he said, Islam must not be spread through violence. That would make an excellent sermon, wouldn't it? Christianity must not spread through violence. We're going to talk for an hour why Christianity must not be spread through violence. Pastor will approve of that. Bring Walid back again. Why is that a problem? Millions of Muslims took to the streets, carried signs and banners. Islam means peace. Islam is a peaceful religion. And these millions of Muslims with these banners, Islam is a peaceful religion, exercised this Islam, this peacefulness of Islam, through sheer violence. They burned churches and killed nuns, and Christians were being killed and persecuted all over Timbuktu. Does that answer your question, sir? Thank you.
My name is Julia. It's nice to meet you. My question is about Revelations 14:14. It talks about the Son of Man coming on a cloud at the sound of the trumpet. And when I read the Bible, before that happens, the seal and the trumpet judgments happened before that. My question is, you had a privilege of going to a pre-tribulation conference, and I was just wondering what their biblical basis was on this secret disappearance of the Christians, and because I'm just kind of wondering why it's so widespread, what we're believing.
The pre-trib rapture, why is it so widespread?
Yeah, and I had a question about this event on Revelations 14:14, which happens after the seal and the trumpet judgments.
Yes. Are you post-trib?
I don't have a label of a millennium, or I just believe that as Christians that will, I think there's a time will come that we'll have to really face whether we're going to believe the Antichrist or just believe in God, and just because of what it says here. I mean, I don't know how it is that we can have an escape.
Your question is regarding the timing of the rapture, pre, post, trib, mid, and what the pre-trib group thinks and all these things. I'm from the East. Easterners don't talk about pre, post, mid all the time. We already live in trib already, Our whole lives is a trib already. So if a trib comes, that's fine too, because it's trib anyway. So, nowhere in the Bible does it say to argue over the timing of the rapture. What we need to be doing is doing ready, which, our priorities are not set right. Before you talk about the timing of the rapture, are you ready for the rapture? Question number one. That's the main thing. Are you ready? Now, I believe in the rapture, of course. You got this pre-wrath thinks it's pre-wrath, and you got the pre-trib think it's before the 7 years, and you got all these, And this is an American thing, because if you even give an opinion with a pre, post, mid, somehow swords come out from middle of nowhere, and the fight begins. I'm not so concerned about. In fact, you never see me in any of my writings talk about positions of rapture. That's a Western dialogue. I'll keep it as such, as a Western dialogue. And I won't even enter into the dialogue at all, because it's, I pray for a pre. Just in case I'm ready for a post. Am I being politically correct? Yes. I pray for a pre. Who's crazy doesn't want a pre-trib? We all want a pre-trib. But if it does happen, look, the issue of pre-trib was discussed before Israel even. Before Israel was established, a lot of Christians thought that we're going to be raptured before Israel is established. Today, Israel is there, and we still haven't raptured. So I think I'm not dogmatic about the subject, and it's not my specialty at all. When I listen to Western theologians talk about pre-trib, it makes a lot of sense. I listen to a post-trib, it also makes a lot of sense. I listen to a mid-trib, it also makes a lot of sense. Somebody's going to stand up and says, wait a minute, Walid. How could this guy make sense, and this guy make sense, and this guy make sense? That all three cannot make sense? I say, you know what? You also make sense. It's amazing. You give a little prophecy teaching, and that's a typical American thing. Let's talk about the rapture, the timing, and all this. Let's talk about the things that never was talked about. And you can discuss pre, post, mid on your own. You don't need me for that one. All right. Questions? Back there? Oh, I'm confusing you here. I'm causing confusion.
Hi, Walid. I just want to thank you so much for coming and blessing us with sharing this
Thank
truth.
you for coming. If you guys don't come, then who am I going to talk to? Four walls?
Right.
Thank yourselves.
As I'm sure a couple of us have already shared with you, we have a movement for a mosque to go up in Temecula.
Yes.
And what can we do as a church to better prepare us to get out there, to peacefully protest, and be equipped to respond to the opposition that is already there?
Yes.
Where can we go and where can we get this information to know how to deal with this, knowing that we're going to be met with peace?
You're not alone in this. There's a lot of Americans. I know, it's amazing how we got together. We got Robert Spencer, Jihad Watch. Begin to sign up and get involved and begin to contact these guys to help. And Jihad Watch. Jihad Watch. That's my friend Robert Spencer, great scholar on Islam. And there is FMU, Former Muslims United. We have a big poster. And it's in Tennessee. It'll stop Sharia. And it's provocative. Of course, you all know me, the shoe and bat.com. There's many websites to go to, sources. shoeandabat.com. And, begin involved with some of those. Acts for America as well. Brigitte Gabriel, Act for America. Groups are coming out of the woodworks to combat this. So this way you're not alone, I'm creating a major event at Fort Hood, right by Fort Hood, the Fort Hood massacre. I'm focused about the massacre. How many Americans know right after the massacre at Fort Hood, the American administration allowed Lu'ay Safi of the Islamic Society of North America to Islamize your troops, to give sensitivity trainings to American troops after killing them? Lu'ay Safi. So I went to the Arabic as usual, to the Arabic language, and I began to see Lu'ay Safi says every Muslim should have their own ability to carry out the type of jihad they want to carry. Jihad, you know what jihad is, right? Yeah, it's, it's a war, it's a struggle within yourself. Holy war, exactly what it is. And, now his problems, he's got criminal issues. You need to begin to understand also that every single organization, Muslim organization, I've said that for so many years on the media, no one was able to refute it. No one, not even CARE came and objected. I said every Muslim organization in America, every major Muslim organization in America supports terrorism. Every single one. MPAC. Who speaks for MPAC? MPAC is an Islamic organization. You have Rick Warren going to speak for MPAC. Rick Warren. Islam is a peaceful religion, and this and this and that. Like, excuse me? MPAC supports terrorism. You got Islamic Society of America, supports terrorism. You got the head of MPAC. The head of MPAC says we have a right to say that we support Hezbollah and Hamas. You have Council of American Islamic Relations, Abraham Hooper. He wants to establish Sharia in America. And to the Americans, he said in the English language, yes, I want to see Sharia established in America. But I will do it through peaceful means. So you need to begin to say, no, go to the city council, go all these things. Collect signatures. Collecting signatures from the community. Americans must speak. You must go to the neighborhoods around the mosque, collect hundreds of thousands of signatures. No. And begin to educate the community around you what this is about. You know, you can't allow the enemy, the cancer, to come and steal your community from you. You've got to act. I forgot what I was going to say. So, you know, it's important to understand what is in a mosque. What is the definition of mosque in Islam? A mosque in Islam is what's called waqf. Waqf in Islam is Islamic property as an Islamic embassy. A mosque is an embassy. And in Islam, once an embassy is established, then it can never be dismantled. You can never take it down. It's against Islamic law. If you take it down, it invokes jihad. If anyone takes a mosque down, that's jihad, fatwa. So the guy is a slick willy. You need to begin to understand how the slick willies function. You go watch Hannity and Combs, and they speak in the English language. You don't know Arabic. You got to know Arabic. And you go Google them in the Arabic, you'll find a litany of things. Let me tell you, when I did, just to prove it to my fellow Americans, I went to the Muslim website. I simply plugged the word Islam. I didn't plug Islamic fundamentalism, Islamic radical, Wahhabism. No. I plugged Islam in the Arabic language. In the Arabic language. So all the Arabic websites pops up. Guess what? I couldn't find a single one, the first 100, that what you consider peaceful Islam. You know when I discovered moderate Islam? I discovered moderate Islam in America. I lived in the Middle East all my youth. The only place I discovered moderate Islam existed is in America. Americans created the myth. They created the myth. They don't want to deal with Islam. In fact, they call it Islamic radicals. Now you can't even use Islamic. You can't even say war on terror anymore. Even the word terror, the leftover word, you can't use it. You got to say man-made disasters. I am an ex-man-made disasterist. Here's what the moderate Muslim websites say. And those are the most prominent ones. Millions and millions go access these websites. Here's what they say. Wikipedia of Islam. انتشر الإسلام بالسلم والحرب. Islam spread through peaceful means and through war. In other words, peaceful means prior to the war act. وقاتلوهم حتى نكون. You have to fight them. So this way the word of Allah is superior. QuranAlislam.com. What does it mean? أن يكون الدين دين الله هو الظاهر العالي. That the religion of Allah become the superior over all religion. على سائر الأديان. Ibn Kathir. HadiAlislam.com. What is the goal of Islam? They call it al-islah al-shamil. Total restitution. This is what they call what they're doing. All Islam is about total restitution. In the Arabic, إن هذا المكر الذي يدبره أهل الباطل وهذا الظلم الواقع علينا وما يستخدم ضدنا من إجراءات استبدادية لمنعنا وحرماننا من حقوقنا الدستورية كل هذا وغيره سينقلب بإذن الله. English. All this evil that is caused against us from the house of evil and all these procedures that are being held against us to prevent us from establishing our constitutional rights. All these will be vanquished, Allah willing. In other words, you telling them you can't have Sharia is sacrilege. You're evil. You're stopping our rights, our constitutional rights. They have a constitutional right. Why? Because the whole globe belongs to Allah. In Islam, the globe belongs to Allah. There is no right of property. The globe belongs to Allah and His Prophet, the Quran says. Did you know in history of Islam, you look at any history of Islam about Islamic conquering of all the nations, you will never find any Muslim country occupying another country. There is no word occupation. The word occupation does not exist in the history books anywhere in the Muslim world. Tariq ibn Ziyad, when he occupied Spain, they don't call it occupation. They call it liberation. Futuhat, opening the doors for Allah. Islam is a globalist religion. The Bible, when you read the Bible, you can sum up the Bible in one word. Calvary. One man dies, believe in that, you go to heaven. If you look at the Quran, the Hadith, I can sum it up in one word. Cavalry. Same letters, mixed up a little bit. Cavalry, warfare. Al-Jannatu tahta dhilal al-siyuf. The heaven is under the shadows of the swords. You want to go to heaven? Sword. You don't understand. IslamSpirit.com. You name it. Al-Ghazali. You name it. All the websites. It's for you to read, but you don't read Arabic, unfortunately. Why? Islam says Arabic is the only way you can worship Allah. If you go to Indonesian mosque, Turkish mosque, Afghan mosque, when they come to the worship, they worship in the Arabic language, even though they don't speak Arabic. Iranians speak Arabic only when they worship. They don't even understand what they worship. Why? I always used to ask myself the question, why is the God of Israel multilingual? And the God of Islam, single language? Because you have to understand what happened in the issue of Shinar, in the issue of Babel, what happened. One language. God changed the languages. And so the tug between evil is it wants to put back one language, back one global government, back one country, one religion, see? And no matter how much they try, it seems that the tug of war within Islam, Persians can never be Arabized, nor Turks be Arabized. And really, it's an Arab religion that wants to have everybody Arabized. And you can have peace with Islam. People ask me, how you can have peace with Islam? I can tell you how you can have peace with Islam, and they will not attack you anymore. Maybe we can rent. You ask me, what should we do to have peace, maybe? I'll tell you how. 4th of July, rent the biggest stadiums. And gather in those stadiums as Americans. You can have peace with Islam. Carry banners, say we switch sides. Islam is a peaceful religion. And some of the beautiful girls would carry signs like, Ahmadinejad, I would like to have your baby now. And maybe another sign that says, I declare there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is a messenger. You have peace. Now, how many of you, pastors, get nervous? He says he's doing Islamic altar calls. How many of you, he looks nervous too. How many of you will do such a thing? How many? Why not? So you're just like me. You're bigoted. You know why you won't do it? Do you know why you won't do it? Because you're Americans. And Americans will thump their nose to anybody who tells them what to do. That's it. Nobody can tell us what to do. You'll thump your nose. I'm an American. Nobody can tell me what to do, what to say. So build signatures. In fact, I got the listing of all the names of who's involved. I'm going to go to the Arabic. I'm going to start digging. We're going to have to work together. Pastor? We're out of time. Out of time for the first session, out of time totally. Totally. All right. No problem. No, you gotta, there's some people that, have to work and all these things.
Some of you have been given a wonderful privilege of being parents, and your children are desperate to see you.
Pastors, one last thing. If people want to read more on this issue, people there's a lot of books out there. If you go buying everything, you don't have to. The best two is For God or For Tyranny. Those are a must, and God's War on Terror. Those two. The rest is commentary, but those two are the most crucial ones in my view. For God or For Tyranny, and God's War on Terror. If you want to understand the prophetic parts, where Islam is in the Bible, how much of the Bible is God's War on Terror. If you want to understand how to train your kids to be wise as a serpent, that's the one. For God or For Tyranny, when nations abandon God. That will make your kids with a brain filter like you won't believe. So those are the two I recommend. Everything else is commentary, waste of money, okay? God bless. Thank you very much.